Microsoft is investing in ChatGPT. Apple is unrolling new virtual reality headsets. It seems that the pace of our technology is going at a dizzying rate. And all of us are wondering, what's next? Well, Dr. Scott Snare has a pretty bold argument about what is coming up, and he is here to talk about it with us today. I'm Julie Hartman, and this is Timeless. Hey friends, welcome to Timeless. I hope that you are having a great week. Just a reminder to please hit the subscribe button down below so you can get notifications whenever I release a new episode. And also to check out my show, Julie Noted, which is about the news of the day, where I give you the facts and then suffuse my wisdom about the most important subjects of that day. Well, today we are going to be talking with Dr. Scott Snare, who I mentioned in the introduction has a really bold idea of what new technology is coming up the pipeline. I actually discovered Dr. Snare when I was going down an internet rabbit hole myself. Many of you who have watched this show Timeless know that I think a lot about the way that technology and changes in technology has affected our culture and our way of life. And it's interesting for me to think about how people 100 years ago wouldn't be able to believe the society that we live in today. They would look at things like our iPhone, our computers, our airplanes, even things like prosthetic legs, and just be amazed. They couldn't even conceive of the rapidity with which we have technologically advanced. So I often wonder, what is the next thing coming down the pipeline? What is the thing that I can't conceive of that may come in just about 10 or 20 years? Then I stumbled upon Dr. Snare's book, The Brainphone Prophecy: Stop Corporations and the Government from Inserting a Smartphone in Your Brain. He makes the argument that the next thing is a brain phone. That is a phone or a chip that is inserted in your brain. I am very happy to welcome Dr. Snare here. He is a writer and data analyst. He has been teaching about technology analysis for 20 years, and his books have been published in over 10 languages. He is also a graduate of West Point, where he was the president of his class. A lot to talk about indeed. Hi, Dr. Snare. Thanks for coming on to Timeless.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
So to start off, I love asking all my interviewees these questions at the outset. How did you get into this line of work and come up with this idea about the brain phone?
Well, I got interested in data analytics coming out of higher education. I was teaching doctoral level students on how to do linear regression and paired sample t-tests and that sort of thing as they were putting together their doctoral dissertations. And as with many things in life, I was offered a chance to segue into something different but related. And to tell you the truth, higher ed was starting to be a bit of a drag for some of the things, for example, you mentioned in your famous speech at Harvard. And as an older guy, I was definitely feeling some of the things you were talking about. So about 4 years ago, I segued over to data analytics and really enjoy it. I just enjoy the whole cyber thing. I work out of DC. I'm contracted to some of the federal bureaus and offices, and I just get a charge out of it. The way I got interested in the brain phone was a little bit earlier than that. When the smartphones first came out, there were people that were becoming famous for a bad reason. They were climbing up mountains and reaching the top of the mountain, and they were trying to get just the right selfie at the edge of the cliff with the valley in the background, and they didn't watch where they were stepping, and they fell to their deaths. And there's a very cynical, evil side of me that just found that hilarious. But it dawned on me that you know give the customer what they want, that there's something that's going to happen at some point if these people, and by the way, they're doing it now by the thousands. Every year, thousands of people in this world fall to their deaths trying to take the right selfie. So I said, well, Eureka, of course, what these companies are going to do is they're going to take this thing, they're going to uh, shrink it down, and they're going to put it in our heads so that we have full control of our hands and our feet while we're driving and while we're looking at a screen. The screen will be a translucent screen, augmented reality, kind of overlapping our actually what we view. And everybody thought I was crazy. I started writing the book anyway. And then Elon Musk came out with the Neuralink device, and all of a sudden, people didn't think I was so crazy anymore.
Well, one of the reasons why I don't think you're crazy is how I opened the show. There are so many things that have happened that we just wouldn't be able to conceive of. Even think right now about space travel. I read a lot about that just because I'm interested, and I still can't even conceive of how we have been able to get to that level. So, really, there are no technological proposals or predictions that seem nuts to me because, by that definition, literally everything around us would be nuts. But to be the devil's advocate for a moment, there could be some people who are listening that are going, okay, maybe the brain phone could be the next thing coming down the pipeline. But there's no evidence right now that people are considering that as a possibility. What's your response? Is that wrong? Are people considering it?
Oh goodness, sure. If nobody was really really thinking hard about doing it, there wouldn't be hundreds of millions of dollars being invested in it right now. To me, that's the obvious proof that this sort of thing is going forward with full force. Also, really, it's being done already. Tom Oxley with the company Synchron, he's already received Food and Drug Administration approval and is already testing such a device in people. Now, these are um, paralyzed people, and I don't begrudge them the opportunity to communicate with other people. These are people that cannot move and cannot talk. So all they really have is their mind to move a cursor. But that's a little bit different because in that case, what they're doing is they're using the device to move a cursor on a screen. I'm talking about literally an iPhone being shrunk down and placed in one's head, so the connectivity and the screen will actually be in one's mind.
Can you please continue, just because you ended off on this? Can you describe the brain phone? You just did a little bit, but just describe how a brain phone would function and what it would be able to do.
Okay, well, let's say you get up in the morning and buy an alarm that's gone off in your head because you have it set for 8 o'clock. You call up a screen. It doesn't take up your entire frame of vision, but it takes up, say, the upper, uh, maybe one quarter of the upper left hand corner of your screen, of your vision. And you scroll through the news, you check the emails in your mind. Maybe somebody who just got up at the same time as you texts, and you read the text right in your mind. If you drive to work, Siri, instead of telling you to make a left, has an arrow in your frame of vision that points to the left, and you know it's kind of overlaid right on the road as you're driving on the road and you make a right. Say that day in your office, you meet a beautiful woman. She might be the woman of your dreams, but one problem, she speaks Spanish and you do not. So you, with your brain phone, you scroll down, you look for language downloads, you download Spanish right into your mind, and instantly you can understand it, and speak it. So you walk over, you ask her to a date, and that night you go out on a date, but you're not going anywhere. The two of you are sitting together on a couch somewhere or at a restaurant,
Mm.
and in your minds, the two of you interconnected, um, take a boat down the Seine River in a virtual reality, and you're canoodling on the boat as it floats down the Seine. But neither one of you are actually in Paris. You're just sitting on a couch, and that's your first date. Those are the types of things that I believe will attract people, certainly a younger generation of people, to this type of device.
You mentioned that there are millions of dollars in investment in this brain phone. Who is investing in it?
Well, a lot of billionaires are self-investing. Elon Musk, Max Hodak, a guy named Tom Oxley, certainly Mark Zuckerberg, Brian Johnson of Kernel, Microsoft, um, the Department of Defense. Yeah, there's all kinds of money going into this type of thing. Oh, and I should mention the Chinese are certainly interested in it uh, for nefarious reasons, I'm sure.
I was reading about the Chinese and their investment in virtual reality headsets. They want to give each citizen one, and it's an eerily brilliant strategy because they don't care if their citizen is free in another universe. They don't care what their citizen eats or says or does, as long as the CCP gets to control them in this one. You're wearing the hat, ban the brain phone, and that is your crusade. Not only to educate us that this may be, as I say repeatedly, coming down the pipeline, but also that it shouldn't be coming down the pipeline. What is your argument for why the brain phone is bad? Some could say, well, it's so efficient and it gives, people who may have dismal lives the opportunity to think they're in Paris. What's so awful?
That's right. The scenario I just described sounds wonderful, but I would argue, and I think the research we have now bears me out, that any good that can come of this, or any good we might get out of this, is counterweighed 100 times over by bad things. For example, and I know that you've talked about this extensively on your show, Julie. Um, Social media combined with iPhones, or should I say smartphones in general, are addictive, and they mess with young kids' brains. Um, the iGen, young people born after 1995, are twice as likely to commit suicide than the generation before them, the millennials. That is tied directly to social media, um, combined with smartphone usage over 2 hours a day. There's a social psychologist named, I think it's Gene Twenge out of San Diego State, who's done extensive research showing this to be the case. Well, not for nothing, but if you put it in your brain, now your now your screen time is 24 hours a day. You've gone from over 2, which we already know is going to mess you up, to 24. It's going to be in your dreams, and because of the short dopamine loops, it's going to be highly, highly addictive. And I argue that 4 years down the road, 4 years after these things have been on the market, everybody's going to look like those meth addicts that you see in those year 4 photos. They're
Mm.
going to be a mess. They're going to look a mess. They're not going to care. They're going to be sitting on a couch just trying to get one more dopamine fix with their brain phones, and they're going to be close to dying. Matter of fact, they might starve because in their minds, in their virtual reality, they're eating. They're at a restaurant. They're loading up. They think they're full when in the reality they're on their couch and they're starving. I also should mention that if you and I have a smartphone and we are talking to each other, we're not the only ones listening in on those thoughts and those conversations. The government is, some governments more than others, certainly,
Yes.
and corporations are listening in. And on that screen I mentioned in the upper right hand corner, there's going to be all kinds of advertisements deliberately and specifically um, tied into your thoughts and your likes, whoever you're talking to, and whatever types of things you're looking at in your mind.
On this discussion of how, in your words, the bad of this counterweighs the good, is there a world or a scenario where we could have all of the good parts of this kind of technology and not the bad parts? For instance, I was reading about virtual reality headsets that it can help train doctors in medical school by telling them, sort of simulating a heart surgery, for instance, and help training them with how to use the tools and how to operate. That seems like a good thing. Of course, there are other examples of how it can be good, but I agree with you that for all of the good, there is this slippery slope and this vast ocean of negative consequences that come out of it. Can this be regulated? Or do you think we should just not even go there at all because the slippery slope is too slippery?
I have mixed feelings. I can give you an example where it's gone very well, where it hasn't resulted in the end of civilization as we know it, and that's cochlear implants. Who would begrudge somebody who's never been able to hear their whole lives an implant that helps them hear for the first time? You watch those videos on YouTube. Oh my God! I mean, I'm a combat veteran, and I'm crying like a baby every time I see one of those people being able to hear for the first time. Um, so that's something. To the best of my knowledge, there aren't governments or corporations listening in to what those brand new hearing people are listening to. So there's something, and I'm sure it's regulated. It's got to be. And since I'm not hearing anything adverse about it or nefarious, I'm guessing it's being done properly. In other words, people are following the regulations. Now, on the negative side, I can give you one also, and that's legal marijuana use. Um, I live in Maryland, which is going, I think next month now, marijuana is going to be allowed recreationally. It's been allowed medically for a while. And I can tell you, I live in Eastern Maryland on the shore, and there's a couple of 420 stores in this area. And when it first came out, and again, I'm a combat vet. I have friends with post traumatic stress, and if marijuana gets them through the day, God bless them. I have no problem with that whatsoever. However, I can tell you in this area, which part of the year is a tourist area, um, when the laws first got passed, everybody and his uncle had a script. Everybody everybody had a prescription for medical marijuana. Clearly, all those people didn't need it. It was just a way to get around the law. And that's my fear with the brain phone, that it's going to start off as something that counters a medical situation. Say there's a virus that gives everybody in the country gets this virus, and it gives them really, really life-threatening seizures. And we put this brain phone in our heads because it stops the seizures. And now, we're all connected. Everybody made it through you know, um, the virus, the pandemic, okay. But now we've all got these doggone things in our heads. That's what I can see happening, where it starts off good and everybody gets on board, and then it turns into something really, really destructive to humanity as we know it.
What's riveting to think about, at least for me, and probably for you, about our technological progress is that for most of our history, our meaning humankind's history, technology has been to serve the purpose of making our lives more efficient and healthier. We have entered this era over the past, I would say, really since 1945, and especially since the turn of the century, where technology is moving into this other area where we now have planes, we have efficient ways to get people across the country, we have hearing aids, we have prosthetic legs, and now we're just kind of innovating because we can. I said 1945 because of the detonation by the United States of the atomic bombs on Japan. We are now in this realm of technology where the technology that we are producing does have the capacity, as you said a few moments ago, to end civilization. That was not the case 100 years ago. So I think that serves your argument well, that this brain phone is not just like another model of AirPods. This is something that could fundamentally change our way of life. And there's no coming back from it. How do you come back from a brain phone?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't really know. I'm trying to think of a case where we said maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not a good idea. I don't think, like Arnold Schwarzenegger said in the first Terminator movie, it is in your nature to destroy yourselves. And I really think we're wired as human beings to take ourselves right off a cliff. I don't have a good feeling. Well, let me give you a perfect example. Real recently, artificial intelligence. A chatbot comes out, and everybody said, wow, maybe this isn't such a good thing for these half dozen reasons. Elon Musk said, hey guys, maybe we ought to, he said to his billionaire buddies, maybe we ought to take a breather. Let's take a 6-month breather and talk about this. Well, once uh, OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, the competitors, they were dying. They were like, oh no, we got to do something bigger, better, faster. And they're all throwing it out there and trying really, really hard to compete with ChatGPT, which I personally find amazing. The ChatGPT, not the competition. Um, so there's a perfect example of people just going crazy and saying, hey, we gotta compete and we got to be aggressive about it, and results be damned.
Mm.
Inevitability be damned. And I really think, I don't know. I think, Julie, that's where we're headed.
What is your relationship with technology? Do you have social media? Do you have a phone? How often do you go on it? Because you know so much about this subject. You know all of the dangers. So do you engage?
I I would say, well, first of all, let me say, when something like half of this country, if I live to see it, when half of this country um, has a brain implant, and they start, calling the shots for commerce and communication and employment, I'm going up to Pennsylvania and joining the Amish. I'm gonna churn my own butter and hunt my own food and learn how to build barns. And I would say that's probably the best way to avoid that sort of thing. Now, between now and then, what am I doing? Well, I'm doing what I would. I don't want to be a hypocrite, so what I do is what I suggest to younger people that they do, which is try to keep your uh, smartphone usage under 2 hours a day. They've done all kinds of studies showing that mental health wise, if you can keep your usage under 2 hours a day, your proclivity, if that's the word, towards depression and anxiety will be negligible. Will be dramatically reduced. So yeah, smartphone use under 2 hours a day, and this is an important one. Now, I'm not on social media. Other than LinkedIn, I don't do social media at all. But, I'm a realist. You can't tell a kid not to be on social media. However, what you can do is tell that kid, uh, don't do social media on your iPhone. Do social media on your laptop
Mm.
or on your iPad, but don't do it on your phone. And that way, a couple of things happen. When you go to sleep at night, you don't have social media right in your face because you have your iPhone right next to you. And you're not staying up till 2 in the morning seeing what everybody's saying about everybody else. And you're limiting your social media time by your distance to your computer. When you walk away from your computer, you're not going to be checking out Snapchat or Instagram or Discord or all the other ones. You're only going to be checking it out when you have your computer, when you have your laptop in front of you. And that's a nice way of keeping your mind from becoming sick. Um, and I would say those are the two biggies. I don't do social media. If I were to do it, it wouldn't be on my phone. I would only be doing it on my computer. And I keep my smartphone limited to usage limited to 2 hours a day, even though, um, I'm on the web for a living.
You took the question right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you what's your advice to young people, and when you say spend 2 hours a day or less on your smartphone, I bet a lot of people will go, smartphone? That's, I mean, 2 hours should be the time I try to just get off of social media. People don't even realize, yes, we spend so much time on social media, but also we're on email, we're on text, we're on photos. So I think streaming, yes, my producer just said in my ear, I think your suggestion about start to finish, every activity you do on your smartphone should just be under 2 hours. I'm going to try to adopt that myself. As a final question, and it may not be the most optimistic note to end on, but I'm a realist. I want the real answer. What is the world going to look like in 50 years?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm a Christian. My pastor wouldn't appreciate this, but I'm what's called a cafeteria Christian. I walk down the aisle, I take the things I like, and the things I don't want to deal with, I just leave, with the food that's good for me. You know what I'm saying? But even so, even as somebody who calls himself, a failed Christian, I really do think uh, there's a plan, and and God's got it all worked out. Um, I mean, is there going to be an apocalypse between now and 50 years from now? I don't know. I, I will say this: if we don't if we don't live our lives morally, and we don't live our lives based on some type of religious framework, just letting humans make decisions based on the here and now, and again, based on, we can do it, so let's go ahead and do it, technology wise and everything. If that's it, if that's all there is, people making their own choices and making decisions based on what we're able to do technologically, I don't have a good feeling. I don't have a good feeling 5 years from now, much less 50 years from now, unless God intervenes and pushes us in certain directions.
So I believe in God. I don't know sort of where my religious home is as far as a denomination, but I believe in the God of the Judeo Christian Bible. And I was having a debate with someone recently about God. And I said, one of the reasons why you can know that God is real is because he predicted all of what we are seeing now. And this friend with whom I was debating said, like what? And I said, like AI. And I gave the example of chapter 11, the Tower of Babel story, which I never really understood the significance of until recently, where these people are building a tower to the heavens to, quote, make a name for themselves. That's the crucial line in the chapter. These people wanted to make a name for themselves. They're building a tower. And God saw that it was bad, destroyed the tower, and then dispersed people and had them adopt different languages. That story, again, I didn't really get it until this point. That is a warning against technology for this, making technology for the sake of technology. Making a name for yourself, doing it because you can, instead of being tethered to making technology within the bounds of morality and religion. So, my dear cafeteria Christian, it's a good note to end on, that God predicted the brain phone and AI and VR and ChatGPT and all of this stuff. Thank you, Dr. Snare, for coming.
My pleasure.
And as a reminder to everyone, his book is The Brain Phone Prophecy: Stop Corporations and the Government from Inserting a Smartphone in Your Brain. Dr. Snare, how can people reach you if they want to learn more?
Well, I have a website, scottsnare.com. The book is available on Amazon. It's available online, Barnes & Noble. And also, I'm delighted Barnes & Noble decided to pick it up in their brick and mortar stores. It's interestingly enough, it's in the religious section.
Oh, good. Well, we will link that in the description below. Thanks again.
Thanks, Julie. My pleasure.
Thank you all for joining me today. Reminder, hit the subscribe button down below, and you can write to me at julie@julie-hartman.com. See you next time. Take care.